Hi there, good people of Earth. This is Attila Yeşilada, presenting for Real Turkey channel. Today I'm gonna step away from the well-traveled path and do a what-if video, sort of a thought exercise, which may sound fantastic, but it's very important. The topic I wish to address is what would happen to Mr. Erdogan and Turkish economy and foreign policy if Mr. Putin is somehow toppled or resigns. Now, I'll be the first to admit I'm not a Russia expert. I'm a regional generalist. I know a little bit about Russia, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Azerbaijan, Turkey, etc., etc. And this video is not to claim that Putin is on his way out. However, the question I'm posing and the thought exercise that emanates from that question is valid. The Wagner insurrection, which started and ended before we could even say, oh, whoa, what's going on, led to the thought among a majority of Western experts that Putin's stronghold on power may not be as deep as many people believe. In other words, his regime is shaky. This may be true, this may not be true. Again, going back to the second subject of this video, Mr. Erdogan faced a coup attempt in July 2016. He is still in power. Mr. Putin may remain in power for 10, 15 years. But the antithesis of Mr. Putin leaving power is just so significant for Turkey from many different aspects that I wish to share my views with you. And there are several areas I want to address. First, foreign policy, Caucasus policy, Turkey's aid to Azerbaijan in its never-ending war against Armenia. Two, Syria. You know, Erdogan and Assad are on other sides of this war, and Erdogan wants to make peace with Assad, to send the refugees back, but Assad is not eating any of it. He wants Turkish forces to completely withdraw from Syrian territory before any peace talks can start. If Putin goes, that equation is going to change completely. And finally, probably most importantly, there is a growing interdependency between Russian and Turkish economies. It's usually one-sided. They export energy, nuclear power plants, and high-tech weapons. We host their tourists and sell tomatoes to them. But no worries, there is a huge trade deficit between Turkey and Russia in favor of the latter. But Putin has been very generous to Erdogan. If that generosity is not repeated, what would happen to the Turkish economy? Okay, let's start reiterating one more time to make sure that everyone understands the limits of what I'm doing. I'm not proposing that Putin will lose power anytime soon, but that question has been legitimately raised, at least by a majority of Western experts, and the implications are very significant for Turkey. So I'm going to conduct a thought exercise. Let's start with the Caucasus. The most prominent feature of the Caucasus is this never-ending war between Azerbaijan and Armenia. It has historical reasons, opposing claims to territory, mutual grievances, ethnic cleansing, slaughter, etc., etc. I don't want to go to that dimension. The most important thing is Turkey is on the side of Azerbaijan, and Azerbaijan has won the latest bout of this never-ending war thanks to Turkish military aid, Turkish military advice, and Turkish armed drone. Israel also helped. Now, Azerbaijan is rich, exports both oil and natural gas. Therefore, it can buy all the shiny new weapons and train a huge army. Armenia is poor. I think Armenian population is about 1/3 of the Azerbaijani population. So, they're starting with a huge disadvantage. However, final victory, as defined by Azerbaijan, is prevented by Putin sticking with Armenia. There is a limit to what Azerbaijan can do to reclaim its territory, or the territory it claims belongs to Azerbaijan, such as Nagorno-Karabakh, before Putin intervenes one way or other. So if Putin goes, regardless of who replaces him, Azerbaijan will have the upper hand. Usually, these regime transactions in non-democratic countries are not smooth. It's not like, say, the United States when, election results are declared and in a month presidents shake hands, you have a new president at the White House and life goes on. It doesn't work like that in autocratic countries. Usually, the departure of a leader leads to a long period of turmoil, struggles among contenders to replace him, and in the interim, the country is largely powerless. It becomes paralyzed, cannot execute its usual policy options. So if something like that happens, I am almost certain that Azerbaijan will attack Armenia again. Azerbaijan's only constraint is not only Armenian valor and Putin's aid to Armenia, but also international pressure. So it will not run over Armenia, even if I could. I'm not saying it will, even if I could, but it will certainly claim back Nagorno-Karabakh. and probably open a land corridor between Azerbaijan and Turkey to increase trade and military aid flows. So that would be a gain for Turkey because Ilham Aliyev is also a close friend of Erdogan, and if Turkey helps Azerbaijan to achieve its military goals, she will be rewarded with by more financial aid, such as more deposits at the central bank, more trade concessions, perhaps cheaper oil and more natural gas, either to be used in Turkey or to be sold to Europe. I don't want to broaden the scope of this video too much, but if Putin goes, the entire political dynamics across the huge swath of land called Central Asia will change significantly. There will be a power struggle between the United States and China, and Turkey would also be a contributor along with Iran to the power struggle. Let's move on to Syria. Now, Erdogan was a sworn enemy of Assad. He thought Assad was going to lose the war in 6 months. It has been like 15 years and Assad is not losing. His miscalculation cost Turkey significantly. We have roughly 4 million Syrian refugees here, and they are causing massive social displacement in Turkey. I'm not against refugees. I think most of these people are valid runaways from a war that destroyed their lives, but I'm reflecting general public opinion. There's a culture clash. They steal our jobs. They cause crime. All the usual anti-immigrant bullshit. And Mr. Erdogan has almost lost May elections as anti-immigrant parties clawed roughly 5% of the national vote. So he wants to send them back, but he can't as long as Assad is in power, simply because Assad doesn't want them back. Most of the refugees are Sunni, whereas Mr. Assad belongs to the Alawite or Alevi faith, and he wants them out of the country. Two, even if Assad says, okay, come back, no refugee will go back, simply because at least Western and opposition Arab sources tell us that those who dare to return have faced massive persecution. Their goods are persecuted, confiscated, they're put in prison, etc., etc. So Erdogan wants peace. Putin pushes both sides for peace, but Assad says no. Assad has a single condition prior to even starting negotiations on peace, which is that all Turkish forces must quit Syria, and opposition fighters, we call them Turkey's proxies, the Mujahideen, must also disarm and surrender to the Syrian army. Now, this can't be done simply because if Turkish army and its proxies were to withdraw from Syria, that would be another huge influx of refugees. Look up Idlib province, which is divided between the Syrian army and Turkish proxies. Roughly 2 million people live in the northern quadrant, right at the Turkish border. If Assad conquers or that territory is abandoned to Assad by peace treaty, those 2 million people will flock to the gates. And for humanitarian reasons, we cannot say no to them. Turkey can't handle 4 million refugees. Imagine 5 million. There would be riots in Turkey. But if Mr. Putin goes, it is to be presumed that his military aid to Syria will decline too. In particular, one reason why Turkey is not conquering more territory in Syria is not because of its fear of the Syrian army, but the Syrian Air Force controls the skies. So no matter who wins in a land war, as long as Russian fighters can bomb your tanks and soldiers, there is really no use fighting. So essentially, Russia defines and decides what happens in a war between Turkish and Syrian armies. Once again, this is not a jingoistic video. I'm not saying, hell, well, Turkish soldiers, we're gonna just go in and destroy those damn Syrians. That's not what I'm saying. Soldiers are valiant everywhere. They stake their lives. But I'm reflecting the Turkish viewpoint that one reason why we cannot force peace upon Assad by conquering more of his territory is not because we're militarily weak, but thanks to Russia, Assad enjoys air superiority. If that air superiority goes, the entire Syrian dynamics will change. Turkey will probably be able to put enough pressure on Assad, also with help from the United States, either openly and directly or implicitly conquer more territory to make it very expensive for Assad to continue this war and force him to an honorable peace. Honorable from Turkish perspectives, and probably send at least a third or maybe even half of the refugees back. So that too is a positive gain from Erdogan. So far, I've cited two things that can happen to Turkish foreign policy if Putin leaves power. A, we increase our influence in Caucasus through Azerbaijan. Two, we get the upper hand in the Syrian war against Assad. So does Erdogan want Putin to go, or at least he would be secretly celebrating if Putin resigns or is toppled today? No. Erdogan was probably as frightened as Mr. Putin when this Wagner insurrection started. The simple reason being economics dominate, and Russian aid has been indispensable. I've shot a video below, we can find it. Mr. Erdogan's foreign pals bankroll his election campaign. Putin sent at least $8 billion for the construction of the Akkuyu nuclear plant to be owned and operated by a subsidiary of Gazprom, Gazatom Nuclear, whatever. I don't speak Russian. And it's believed, though there are no official figures, Putin also deferred up to $10 billion of gas payments from Turkish natural gas monopoly, BOTAŞ, to Gazprom. So we're talking about a favor that's worth $15 to $20 billion. Now, it's not a one-time gift, even though natural gas and oil prices are much lower compared to last year. Nevertheless, Turkey is facing an energy bill of at least $40, possibly $50 billion at current prices. And Turkey still doesn't have enough foreign currency earnings to cover that kind of a trade deficit. So if Turkish economic policy is not changed on that, see if Mehmet Şimşek can rescue Turkish economy, Mr. Erdogan will have to go to Putin hat in hand, begging for more financial favors. And of course, the regime, whoever it might be, which will replace Mr. Putin, may not be so understanding or sympathetic to Mr. Erdogan's needs, or it might have completely different foreign policy prerogatives. Finally, Mr. Erdogan has very skillfully exploited the Ukraine war, playing both the Western side and the Russian side and the Ukrainian side to elevate himself to the position of an important interlocutor in the war, which, prevents sanctions from the West and forces his contemporaries in Western capitals to take him seriously. It raises his prestige. If Putin goes, he'll lose that advantage. Essentially, he'll have to do business with the West simply because there will be no Russia. So at the end, I think the title of this video is correct. If Putin goes, Erdogan is going to be substantially weakened. I want to thank you for watching this video. If you like it, subscribe or share it with your friends. And I'll be back with a new video in a couple of days. This is Atilla Yeşilada signing off from Istanbul.